James Bond. The name's Bond. James Bond. And he is now Amazon's bitch. Yep. Amazon now owns the James Bond franchise. This happened after they bought MGM Studios for $8.45 billion, which is a huge number. But what I wanted to do was go over the pros and cons about this deal. And honestly, most of them are cons because I don't like this deal. I don't like it one bit. And I'm going to go into why I don't like it. So the very first reason, and you know what? I'll start with the positives. So what's the positive here? Well, the positive is that now James Bond is owned by a company that can actually afford to make James Bond movies. And that is a good thing. MGM Studios for many years were going through financial difficulties. They did go bankrupt multiple times. And one of the very big things about Bond at MGM was that they just couldn't afford to make those movies. So what did they do? They went to other studios such as Sony Pictures and they helped them to finance the films. I mean, we almost didn't get the Hobbit movies because MGM went bust, but you know what? In retrospect, it probably would have been good just not to have those movies at all, but that's another story. So yes, the fact that Amazon now owns the James Bond franchise is good in the sense that they can actually afford to make those movies because Amazon literally owns all the money in the world. They're the world's biggest company, and Jeff Bezos is the world's richest man. So yeah, Bond now has cash, but what does that come with? And what it comes with is a whole load of caveats and a whole load of cons that I'm going to go into right now. So con number one is that this could spell the end for cinema. Yeah, that sounds quite drastic, but hear me out. So what is Amazon? Well, Amazon is an online retailer. That's what they do. They sell stuff online. But over the course of many years being in business, well, actually not that many, but over the course of some years being in business, they've started to make movies and TV shows via their streaming service. So we've got Amazon Prime where we can go and watch movies and TV shows. And now they're starting to do Amazon original movies and TV shows. Yeah. And they've been all right. There have been some decent films over the years. I think Manchester by the Sea was pretty good and Patterson was pretty good. They also made the Suspiria remake through Amazon Studios. The thing is, Amazon Studios still hasn't really done anything that incredible in the movie scene. And MGM Studios is a movie studio with huge years of expertise and experience. So the fact that James Bond is now owned by what is really a streaming service is really actually quite a bad thing because honestly, what streaming service has made a genuinely decent movie? Like really, just think about it. There aren't that many. And to be honest, off the top of my head, I can't think of any genuinely decent movies made by streaming services. There are some that they make, and they make them for awards purposes. So Netflix has done this in the past and has done very well doing this sort of stuff, like The Irishman and stuff like that. But over the course of however many years these streaming services have been making movies and TV shows, the movies have not been good, really, on the whole. And I don't want Amazon to come in and make a James Bond movie just for the sake of making a Bond movie. No matter how much money they have behind them, they won't have the expertise and the knowledge. One of the things about this deal that's actually, I suppose, relatively positive is that they are bringing over a lot of the people from MGM. So the producers of the Bond franchise are still involved in Bond. And even though Barbara Broccoli is telling us that these Bond movies will still be coming into theaters, the likelihood is that over, let's say, the next 5 to 10 years, Amazon will eventually just bring these movies onto their streaming platforms and just forego the cinema experience entirely. And I think that's the biggest con here. That is the thing that is really worrying me, is the fact that now that James Bond, literally the world's biggest movie franchise, is owned by Amazon, it's basically spelling the end of cinema because in 10 years' time, Amazon's just going to say, well, what's the point of us releasing these movies in cinemas when we can just release them on streaming platforms and keep all the money to ourselves? That's literally what's happening here. And if anything, if this pandemic has taught us anything, it's that streaming services are just becoming more and more powerful, and cinemas are in completely dire straits right now. Cinemas are going bust all over the world. I mean, cinemas are closing all over the world. It's not looking good. So is Amazon really going to put money into releasing a movie into cinemas and then split the money they get from that movie with the cinema? No, they're not. They're not going to do that with the cinema chains. So what are they going to do? They're just going to put the movies, these upcoming Bond movies, straight onto their streaming services, and that is a huge con in my book. And it's actually one of the main reasons why I'm really upset about this, because for me, it was one of the kind of last franchises, really. Like I mean, we still got Star Wars going on, and Disney is still saying that they're going to still release movies in cinemas. But the fact that Bond is now owned by Amazon, and Amazon is a company that hasn't really ever shown any interest in releasing movies into theaters, really, unless they want them to be actually that they want them to get awards, they have to do that. But what it means is that the world's biggest franchise, really, Bond is one of the world's biggest franchises, movie franchises, will now be streaming only. And that, I know that sounds quite pessimistic, but there is precedent to this. Amazon's done this. Well, Amazon is a company that really, if the movie isn't going to be Oscar worthy, they don't see a point of putting them in cinemas. They just literally release them on their streaming platforms. They do a limited run. That run is only going to get shorter and shorter as time goes on. And then I suppose there's the fact that Jeff Bezos now owns James Bond. And I just hate the fact that Jeff Bezos is sitting in his mansion somewhere thinking, I own James Bond. Aren't I cool? And that is just a massive con. And that con alone, I think, is enough to say Amazon really shouldn't own Bond. So I suppose all of this to say, I don't like this news. I don't like it one bit. And yet, unfortunately, Bond is now Amazon's bitch. And Bond shouldn't be anybody's bitch. Thanks. I'll see you guys in the next one.